In the case of nuclear or radiological fallout, people living around potential targets. You shouldn't leave your shelter until officials say so.
This is the emergency broadcast system. This is not a test. Repeat, this is not a test. Citizens are advised to take the following steps. Stay alert to news media events or local emergency alert notifications.
Welcome back to the Big Red Button Podcast. We're your hosts, Alex and Dallas. How's it going, Dallas?
It's going fantastic. How are you doing?
I can't complain.
Yeah.
We are continuing our side series, side segment called Pressing the Button, where we are breaking down the Fallout Amazon Prime TV show episode by episode. If this is your first time here, just know that this is a supplement to our main show where we do an actual play audio drama living in the world of Fallout. So this isn't the same show that you're getting every week. This is an addition to it. So tune in either last week if you're a time traveler or tune in next week to hear our main content. But in the spirit of breaking down episode by episode, the last Pressing the Button, we did episode 1 of the show. We are now doing episode 2 because this is how TV shows work. You watch episode 1, then you watch episode 2, then you watch episode 7, then you go back to 4. And wait, no, that's the machete order from Star Wars.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's a weird way to do it, isn't it? It sounds weird when I say it out loud. So what we like to do is we do a non-spoiler start. We'll take a break and come back with a spoiler warning. So in case you haven't seen episode 2 already, we're not going to ruin everything, but we are going to do a non-spoiler, and then we will spoil the snot out of the rest of the episode later on. You have been warned, but we will warn you in advance of when the actual spoilers are coming on. So,
Yeah.
Dallas, just like last time, give me your numerical grade, 1 being dog water and 10 being dog meat. Great. See what I did there?
Yeah, that was good. That was really good.
What? And this is also in a vacuum.
In a
We're
vacuum.
talking about, yes.
I think in a vacuum, this one gets 8.5 for
Wow.
me.
Okay.
It was solid the whole way through.
Yeah.
I didn't have like gut punchy or like riding high moments.
Yeah.
But it was solid the whole way through. So that's why it's better than the last episode.
Yes.
But it isn't going into the halls of best episode ever of a show for me. But it was fantastic the whole way through. Like, for me, 8.5 is amazing.
Right. You are, and like we said the last time, you are well known for just throwing out 10s willy-nilly. So
Always.
an 8 is just a slap in the face. No,
Right, yeah.
that's high. That's high praise for Dallas.
The bottom of mine ends at 7.5. That's my one.
Wow, really? No, I'll give.
that's good.
I use my full range for a reason. There's a reason it goes 1 to 10.
Yeah.
It's a straight line. It's not an exponential curve where it's like, oh, 7 shoes. No, I got
Right, yeah.
it's an actual regular, just straight line. I give this an 8.
Yeah.
And not because it's the same as episode 1. I just think they have different merits as episodes where I go, okay, the first episode had to lay the foundation for the entire franchise and for the entire show. Episode 2 needed to lay the foundation for the stakes.
Yes.
And that is really hard to do. Like, all right, you've given us some of the world building. Now, all right, what's it actually going to be? You know, like what's actually going to happen that's going to push the story forward? So it had its own struggles of continuing to propel this story along.
Yeah.
So 8 for me, which combined, we now have an 8.25, which is higher than our
Oh,
first episode. So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of good stuff here in this episode. We've got some great cameos for folks who are coming in.
Yeah.
We have some really good action.
Oh, yeah.
I will say, I think maybe the reason my rating is a little tempered is because I am a masochist in the sense that when something is coming up, like a movie or a TV show like this, I want to watch all of the content that's available beforehand. Like, I just want to know everything. There were a few scenes later on in the episode that's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have watched that preview, that 2-minute preview or that 3-minute preview that Amazon Prime put out. Like, oh, okay, that kind of took the wind out of my sails a little bit. Like, that's how Allie, my wife, is with trailers. She doesn't even want to watch a trailer. Like,
oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
She got mad at me because there was a singular line in the trailer that was spoiled for her, and she was like, "This is why I don't watch trailers." No. Yeah. So for me, it didn't, like, maybe I shouldn't have watched the 2 or 3 minute preview that they put out, but gosh darn it, if it's not an amazing episode, like, it's so good. Good.
It's chunked like the first one is.
Yeah.
Not as on the nose of, like, here's the name of a character and then we're going to do a thing, but it's still very much there. But the story's moving now, which is really nice.
Yeah.
That the problem I had with the first episode of, like, I still don't know what's going on. From start to finish, you're starting to get a little bit more fed into explaining things, where things are going, and a lot of character development while there's action going on, while there's storytelling going on.
You get the best of both worlds in this one.
There's still you're given a thing, but not the why. And I'm assuming that will pay off later.
And it does. It does. Yeah. As having seen the whole show at this point, everything that happens in here continues to be given whys. Yeah. And obviously there are still overarching mysteries that don't have an answer, because that's the reason that season 2 is going to exist. But there's still mysteries of Fallout that haven't been answered. People are going back to Fallout 3 and noticing a logo from somebody on a nondescript or on an object, and you're like, oh, there's implications here. So I mean, the entire franchise is riddled with mysteries that are continuing to be explored. So
and I feel like these are on purpose. They're not just lazy storytelling wise. They are intentional, which is nice.
I think what's really great about this episode is it shows us the rest of the world and how it exists as society. Like in Fallout 4, you go into Diamond City. Diamond City is, a whole community built inside once great Fenway Park, or currently great Fenway Park, I should say, as a Red Sox fan. And it's always going to be great. Who am I kidding? So it's interesting seeing that in real life, like the shanty town being built out, and how does society continue to thrive, seeing more of the world. How do they respond to threats? How do they respond to people who are very privileged? And so it definitely, it's fun to see that dynamic explored in this episode.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because I'd wondered in the last one, like, how are people going to respond to Big Blue Jumpsuit walking around now? Because in the games, that doesn't get addressed a lot. They're not super, like, pushbackish against you, like, ugh, what a pansy. Like, you just came
a lot of times they even treat you with, like, a level of reverence of, like, oh, you were a vault dweller. Wow. What was that like?
That is not how this goes.
No. And I think it's for the best. Like, I think that's how more people would actually respond in these kinds of scenarios. Like, oh, really? you're going to come out here and tell us how to run the world? Well, we've been running the world while you guys have been hiding. So.
Right, yeah. I thought they did a good job.
Yeah.
That for sure. Now, the CGI, I did see some flatness in one particular part, but the rest of it was
if you're going to have that kind of if you can watch with that fine tooth of a comb, that's a good problem to have. Like, oh, really? That was,
there's a scene with a vertibird that I was like, this one maybe isn't as layered as the last episode, but still is fantastic. Because then I was like, well, first off, I could not do better. And second, I don't know how you could have done this better, with the shot that they were going for without actually building one and flying it in real life.
I know it. So I know what you're talking about. And I'll rail on it a little bit in the spoiler section.
Right.
But any other non-spoiler thoughts before we dive into the meat and potatoes of this episode?
No, because there's a lot to unpack in this one.
All right. Well, everyone head to your underground bunkers and batten down the hatches. Dallas and I are about to spoil this episode. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, be ready for the fallout.
That's right.
This episode is brought to you by our friends at True Vault Escapades.
You got a name, miss?
Bunny, detective. You can call me Bunny.
When a wasteland detective and a vault girl cross paths, no criminal is safe.
You're both under arrest.
Don't move a muscle if you know what's good for you.
Based in Bethesda's Fallout series, follow Walter and Bunny as they traverse the Texas Commonwealth and New Vegas, busting big crime rings.
Put that sucker in the ground. We'll need all we can to expand into Vegas territory.
Education is key, detectives. And surviving anything the wasteland can throw at them.
Brace for impact! Fire!
It's him! It's the Mothman!
Featuring a series of nail-biting narratives and guest stars from across the Fallout community.
What brings you here to the tower this early?
I've got a murder to solve.
Murder?
Hey, thanks for bringing me out of that booth, Bunny. I'd much rather be doing this.
Glad to hear it, Dusty.
I was being sarcastic,
It's anybody's guess what thrilling case is up next.
War never changes, does it, Bunny?
No, it certainly does not.
True Vault Escapades, a Fallout audio drama. Available anywhere you get podcasts.
Welcome back. Hopefully you have crawled out of the bunker, watched episode 2, and better for it, or you've already watched it and you hung on, hanged on, hung on. Hunged on.
With two O's.
Yeah.
Hunged on.
Yeah. You hunged on to this during that break because you'd already watched episode 2 and you're here for it. You're ready for it to happen to you while we unpack some spoilers.
Or you went and ate some pre-war cram while you crammed the episode.
Ooh, yeah.
On fire with the puns. Just like if I had been stuck outside of a vault, I would be on fire. So,
yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah. So let's talk about some spoilers.
Please.
Yeah.
Okay. So episode 2, we have a lot going on. First of all, the Enclave is back.
Yeah.
And I personally, I posted in the Fallout subreddit, and I was just asking people, what are some things that they hoped they would see in the show.
Yeah.
And I said, personally, I wanted to see more of the Enclave because it's when you're a shadowy cabal that's been pulling the strings, you think you're better than everybody. What is that really like?
Yeah.
And Cody, who is part of Big Red Button, he pointed out that the entire John Wick franchise is centered around the fact, and his words, that wholesale human slaughter is acceptable when you kill a dog. You know, John Wick can kill everybody because you kill a dog. The Enclave is like, that's an ounce short. Kill the puppies. And you're like, oh, these guys are evil. I mean, I don't know why that's the preferred method to show somebody's evil. Like,
I know,
you got
yeah.
Cruella de Vil here, which I guess I'm holding this up to eye level. And then you've got the Enclave, and I'm now holding my hand up way above my head. So it's like, yeah, they're not even trying to hide the fact that these guys are not good.
But I also like it that we have episode 1 where an entire vault gets slaughtered. And you're like, that's pretty bad. But then the beginning of this episode, like, puppies get killed, and you're like, these people are despicable. Like, they're you want
like, Raiders, I get it. We all need resources, and sometimes the only way to get it is from other people. It's not my choice. I would want to collaborate.
Yeah.
But then you cut to this evil shadow government, and they're, marching around with just big white helmets and evil scientists, and you're like, oh, these guys are evil. Got it. Like, that's a whole new level. And so I never watched Person of Interest. It was just one of those shows. Again, we were talking about Suits at one point offline.
Yeah.
And Suits was one of those shows that just passed me by. And then watching it, you're like, oh, this show's great. I never watched Person of Interest. And as a big Nolan Brothers fan, I feel a little ashamed of myself. But Michael Emerson, who plays the scientist, is in Person of Interest. And I did not know that. So that level of The Onion was not even... That was another layer that I was like, oh, wow. That makes that cameo even better.
So there's a lot of dogs going on.
Yes.
Is this the explanation for dog meat being in every game in different places? That there are clean dogs, like non-mutant dogs being created by them?
You know what? I hadn't thought of that. And we have cats in Fallout 4. The Enclave is responsible for the greatest animals and cats.
The worst.
No. I'm kidding. I love cats. Just not as much as dog meat. I would, not to be dramatic, I would die for dog meat,
Oh, yeah.
When dog meat gets hurt in any of the games, I'm just like, I'm coming. I'm going to murder everybody. And like, that's the point. Like,
yeah, I almost don't want dog meat to fight. I want dog meat behind me. Just hanging out all the time.
Stay. That may be the in-world or in-universe rationale there.
Because every dog that you encounter in the wild is like a mutant, hairless mongrel kind of dog.
Right.
Except for dog meat, and dog meat is in Fallout 3, right? And then Fallout 4, there's a dog meat.
I'm fairly certain dog meat makes her very first appearance in Fallout 1, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. And they make sure to show like a line of them outside of these pristine dogs on the yard in episode 2.
Right. So it's like you get to see idyllic Enclave idea of like, this is a dog. Yeah. It should be aggressive and mean. And meanwhile, our mad scientist friend is like, I'm going to give her a soft bed and plush animals and a treadmill.
Yeah.
So, and then in that scene, once he is discovered, it's clear he's planning some kind of escape.
Yeah.
He takes what looks like some kind of glowing capsule, injects his neck with it, and he's planning some kind of getaway.
Yeah.
Why, we don't know yet. A lot of those questions are answered later on, of course. But at this point, it's that air of mystery again, where it's like, oh, what is that thing?
Yeah.
Why does he need to get out? I know a lot of speculation before the show came out was that he was playing with the forced evolutionary virus, right?
Right.
That very famous trailer scene where he's running away from the turret.
Yeah.
That, he's actually becoming a super mutant. That's why it looks weird. In reality, he's just got the highest luck in the game, apparently. That was a very interesting getaway, I will say.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But I like it that he's that in between of he's very privileged and shielded from the wasteland, but also in it. So he knows things because he ends up bestowing that wisdom later on. Even though he's not been out there scrounging,
right?
He still knows. Like
he's willing to take one for the team, which we'll get to, and we're still going to spoil that too.
Oh, absolutely.
So I also loved seeing Lucy in the wasteland.
Oh yeah,
just blissfully unaware. It's kind of like she doesn't even have a thought in the world that something bad could be out here.
Right,
just sleeping out in the open. Not even considering what kind of creatures could be after her or people could be after her. Just that innocence is still there, and it's so funny. The wasteland is the straight man to her innocent comedy, you know?
Oh yeah. But I like that she's like, I am very adept at survival. So, I made a fire out of really nothing, so I'm set. And that is actually the worst thing you could do. None of your survival knowledge that you learned in the vault applies here to this world.
Which we didn't even actually talk about it in the first breakdown of the first episode, but I love that they had to give an in-world reason for her being the protagonist, that she's going to survive everything. And it's like, oh yes, I've done jujitsu and I've also led the survival team, like all the little side hobbies that she has. And it's like, this is how she's going to, we're going to video game logic our way through it.
This is what makes her special.
Yeah. So that was funny to see. And then encountering our scientist and dog meat.
Oh yeah. And we get our first rad roach, right? That's what.
Yeah.
And we get a little explanation of those, which is really cool because that's always like level 1 bad guy you encounter in the game is a rad roach.
And she's not even prepared enough for that,
Yeah. So she doesn't even have a real gun. She has a syringer that she brought out of the vault.
Yeah. It's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to shoot some chems at people. I'm just going to poke you with medicine and hopefully you'll be nicer to me or pass out. Like, what? No, you need a weapon. You need a weapon.
And she drifted off to sleep. Make sure to take her Pit Boy off before she drifts off to sleep because you completely...
It's like taking my watch off.
Completely disarm yourself because she has no concept that the world is bad around her. Yeah.
Yes.
I loved it.
It is funny that it's just like, I'm so gung-ho on saving my dad who's been kidnapped that she doesn't consider the other things in the world except for that one woman, Moldaver. Like, that's it. She just has a name, and that's it. Then we cut to the Brotherhood, back to Maximus for a little bit and see his journey. And you talked about... So he's gotten his promotion. He's now a scribe, and he's not a scribe. He's a
squire now.
He's a squire, and branded by this jerk.
Oh yeah.
I mean, throwing his jock strap basically at him, like, clean this. And like, wow. I mean, I know he's kind of dopey, but I
like that we have like a different tale of innocence lost. That he had this grandiose idea of the purity of the Brotherhood of Steel, and we go and help and change the wasteland.
Right.
And it is crashing down around him at every turn of like, oh, he's terrible. Oh, this is bad too. Like, none of this is what I thought it was going to be.
It just feels like hanging out with like a college jock.
Oh, yeah.
And that's rude because I know a lot of college jocks who weren't this toxic and just awful.
He's the stereotype. Like, he's the epitome of the 80s movie.
Yes.
Frat boy kind of like.
Where it's like, I want to go shoot something. And I'm like, dude, you're on a mission. Like, what are you doing?
This was the part where I had the issue of like, it just so happens. Like, they didn't even make it to the mission location. He's just wants
stumbling
to get out.
across clues.
Yeah. They just so happen to drop not on a mission, on the mission.
They are technically heading one area from, further out and then heading in towards the town called Philly.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that maybe you stumble across something.
Right.
However, the best scene probably the best scene in this episode, in my opinion, is as Maximus, this unprotected guy, just wearing, just a regular wasteland suit, is now sent into a dark, spooky cave to investigate a loud sound, while the guy wearing a multiple ton set of armor is just standing there with his gun going like, nah, you investigate it. Go on.
Right, yeah.
Go on. Do my dirty work. And it's like, why?
Yeah.
You're an idiot. And of course, that's all in service of the, it's showing that he's an idiot and
right, yeah.
A wuss.
Yeah, that he's not battle hardened or like he's not trying to teach him a lesson. It's legitimate because he doesn't want to. Like he is not good at his job.
So the last breakdown episode that you asked the question of like, does this get addressed? And yes is the answer then. Yes is the answer now. This is just one more really good example of like, how far have they fallen?
Yeah.
How is a guy wearing the most advanced piece of technology scared of the dark? Like you have a headlamp.
Yeah.
Turn it on. When I was quoting that Amazon Prime post that they talked about the writers and showrunners who were very, very involved, they actually wrote that scene because there is something just majestic about, an unprotected guy walking in and you turn around and there's a giant mutated bear, Yao Guai, charging you. And instead of like, oh yeah, I'm in armor, let's take it on, he runs out of the cave screaming, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. And the duck quacks are going to be getting a workout there. But sorry, kids, we're not that kind of show.
Those are the only lines for a while in the show.
But it's, Allie looked at me and went, that is a real encapsulation of what it feels like to play the game. And the first time you have one of those encounters, it doesn't matter like which game, if it's a Deathclaw or if it's Yao Guai, you just walk into a clearing and the next thing you know, you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah. I mean, that's how Fallout 4, like the very beginning parts of the game, like you get a suit of power armor and there's a Deathclaw. Yes. And I always am like, I'm not jumping down there. I don't think so. No.
Let the Raiders deal with it.
Yeah.
Or in Fallout New Vegas, Allie's been playing New Vegas now for the first time as well. And it's been fun because she still has that mentality of like, oh, I can go and do whatever I want. No, you can't. Yep. You're really underpowered. So if you wander someplace, you could get, attacked by something that's way bigger and way faster than you.
Oh yeah.
And you better be prepared. And so the saves have been coming in handy, like quick save before I'm going to test something and then reload when it goes horribly awry. So that's very much like that scene was like, that's perfect. That is exactly what playing these games feels like.
Yeah, I loved it.
What'd you think about the actual introduction to Philly, though, our little shanty town?
It felt very video game Fallout. Like they got the whole vibe of this is a living shanty town of people just getting by, kind of just doing a lot of nothing.
Yeah.
Like it's one of the things like in Fallout, I'm like, why aren't you guys doing more? Like it's been 200 years since the bombs dropped. This is all you got. And they got that like the guy that Lucy meets on the way, who is like, it's on the other side of that hill. And she's like, have you ever been there? Nope.
No.
It's just over that hill. Nope. Dad went over there. He died. Had an aunt once.
And my sister.
Yeah.
Had an aunt once. She died.
That they're just like, he's working on the water purifier and he's like, I just keep adding sand and no water's coming out. And she's like, have you tried adding water?
Yes.
It shows that like, oh, you guys have lost everything and you just barely scraping.
It's beautiful though in its own right, where it's just like, that is what it's like. Like I think of the movie Idiocracy a little bit.
Yeah.
Where, you see that opening scene of like the very smart couple and they're like, well, we're going to hold off having kids. And meanwhile, the, bum and his wife are just popping them out. And over the decades, the population gets dumber. Well, what happens when you're all irradiated and your, breeding selection is very limited, and also it's just survival of the fittest in some ways, where it's just
it's really the survival of the dumbest in this.
I'm just going to sit over here in my rundown house and in my underwear.
Yeah.
I also really loved that he asks her for water, like you're saying, like, well, did you try adding water? She's like, do you need water? And of course she's very innocent, and she's like, I've got a little water I could spare. Like, here, have a sip. And he just downs the entire purified water bottle that she's got. And she's like, what? And that's like that's the tip of the iceberg of lessons that she will need to learn. And it's great. And
he explains it to her. He's not really aggressive.
No.
He's like, I was told whenever, you get water, you drink it. Even if you're not thirsty, you drink it. Because you won't get it again. So, like, he's just kind of
especially not if you keep adding sand to your water purifier, right? You won't. So she gets into Philly, and when you say it felt very video gamey, it does. Where it's just like this big, like almost like a Renaissance fair out front.
Yeah,
where everybody's just hawking their wares. You've got like a snake oil salesman, doctor, who. Oh, I got a cure-all for everything. And you're like,
right, yeah.
No, you don't. Or do you?
Right.
Spoiler, not spoiler. And, then you go into town and it's like, okay, what would be my first stop? If I was looking for supplies or help, like I would go to a trading post.
Yeah.
That would be the person who would probably have the most information. Lucy did not exactly get the warmest of welcomes, did she?
Nope. And that's where like they really drive home people do not like vault dwellers because they have not had to bear the brunt of surviving the wasteland.
Not at all.
And she comes at them very much as the like Girl Scout, like I'm here to find this person.
Excuse me, you own some Fallout. You own some Vault Tech gear, and that's illegal. So I assume that you do illegal activities. Can you tell me about your illegal activities? Like, girlfriend, that is not how you go. Hey, I know you've been in the vault for a long time. Have you read Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People? Because I think you needed to. Like,
yeah. She hits a vendor who's selling iguana on a stick. And is it iguana on a stick or iguana bits that in Fallout lore is actually human meat?
Really?
Yeah. Really? In one of Fallout 1 or 2, like you find out that all of the iguana meat, because they're like, there's no iguanas. It is people meat.
The horrifying truth about iguana bits.
Bits, which they were giving her iguana on a stick. So.
Oh no, they were human meat from one specific vendor in Fallout 1. There is also actual iguana, and then
because I don't think hers was bits that they were getting offered. It was like iguana on a stick, so I think it's legit.
No, iguana bits nor squirrel, because there are just as many theories about those. Give no bonuses if you have the cannibal perk. Mystery jerky and mystery bacon do give a bonus if you have it. Oh no. I don't. Oh no.
So I think she's safe from
but
this guy.
And it is funny because you mentioned like human meat. It's not the last time we're gonna surprise. The wasteland's bad. So,
and the snake oil guy, that's not the first time we saw him in this episode, right? That's the guy that Maximus saves.
Yes,
because he was doing experiments on chickens. Chickens really are having a hard way to go in this.
Doing experiments on chickens is a really family-friendly way of raising them. Like, but that's a really good also point, like where you're talking about Lucy's learning the world, Maximus is learning the world, where he's like,
I am in an armor suit. I will save everyone from harm.
And so he sees two guys fighting, one guy beating the snot out of the other guy, and he's like, well,
clearly that's the aggressor.
You know, like, and it's like, no, he was alien probing the chickens with his, body parts.
Yeah. But I like that they picked something that was so weird that he wasn't like, I got to go chase him down because he's really the bad guy. It's like, what?
Yeah.
What kind of weird place am I in?
Right.
Not
right.
a like blatant black and white. Oh, he murdered my daughter. No, he did. He did what?
Yeah. Yeah. So I see why that that guy probably has some screws loose. So
yeah,
so Shantytown is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Maximus now has let his knight die, going back to that, because they kind of cut back and forth.
Yeah.
What did you think of Maximus just letting Titus expire?
The more that dude talked, the more I was like, he better not go give that dude that stim pack. He better just let him go. But I also don't know how he's going to come back unless he really redeems himself, because that's what he was accused of doing to get the position he has in the first place, is, sabotaging someone to get their position.
Right.
Now this guy dies. Is this going to get brought up again? Like,
right.
If you go home and they're like, oh, so you may or may not have cut somebody's leg almost completely off to become a squire, and he just so happens to die. Now that doesn't look good.
Yeah.
And that guy brings it up. He's like, they'll kill you if you go.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you, and I think there's kind of this blessing in disguise for him where it's like, I will just, like for Maximus, I'm just going to hide in the armor and no one will know the difference. Yeah. And he does the classic, like, oh, you're calling me? Maybe I should just, I'm going through a tunnel style, which is great. Yeah. I have not seen anything. I don't think I know anything else that Michael Rappaport, the actor who plays Knight Titus, I don't think I know anything that he's been in. But everyone that I knew that knew him, like I'm looking now, like he's in Only Murders in the Building or The Simpsons. He was in Law and Order for an episode. He's in The Big Bang Theory for like. He does a lot of parts, like bit parts. And so like people said, like when he showed up, if you knew him, you knew him.
Right. Yeah.
For a split second, I thought they grabbed Bill Burr.
I did too.
I was like, no way. Yeah. But honestly, not having Bill Burr kept the immersion around for just a little bit, better. So I enjoyed that. And there's something about when jerks get their comeuppance.
Oh, yeah.
That's just so, like, I remember growing up, my dad would talk about revenge movies, and like, you gotta watch them sparingly because you don't want your whole world tainted by that.
Right. Yeah.
Like A Man on Fire or The Equalizer, like, bad guys getting their just desserts taken. Like it's nice. And so this guy's taunting Maximus. Yeah, I was okay with Maximus just letting him.
Yeah.
Not only were you a coward, but now you're taunting the only person who can help you.
Yeah. I thought maybe he would get up, like this is going to be this world is bad and it's just going to keep getting worse.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of glad that there was a little light in that tunnel for him at the time.
Yes. So back in Philly, we see our scientist friend get ushered into the store in kind of like a backdoor hush hush, like I don't want to even call it the Underground Railroad because that seems a little too generous. But as Mama June starts ushering him in, we cut across the good, the bad, and the ugly style to Walton Goggins just sitting there in a rocking chair waiting on his target.
Yeah.
That next scene of violence is incredible.
Oh, yeah. That reminded me a lot of the game. Like, you're just blasting everything and things are falling apart. And even the like Bethesda jank of like, they're going to launch. Like, physics maybe don't work the same way anymore. And so, like, giant holes and people flying over things and just crazy shots.
It reminded me a lot of in Fallout 4, which, again, this is recency bias. It's not that I think that's the end all be all, but right very early on in the game, or at least traditionally based on how you explore the game, you come across a little diner and there's a gang out front with a guy named Wolfgang, and he's shouting at the owner, Trudy. And you have to kind of get involved because, like, Trudy's son is addicted to drugs and owes that guy a ton of money. And who do you side with at first?
Right, yeah.
And, like, the first time I played through it, I immediately was like, oh, this drug dealer guy, he's a jerk.
Right, yeah.
Blast away. And then I go back to it and I start listening and I'm like, oh, the son is a bad guy too.
Right,
like, okay, so you all suck here.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of those like in-game scenarios where it's just like, let's go guns blazing. And I think like, Lucy's reaction of like, well, let's diffuse the scenario. Clearly, you're not being very nice. And if you're not going to listen to this, then you're not very logical. And I'm just going to have to, tranquilize you. And the ghoul, Walton Goggins, is just like, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
That was the part, like, amazing part of the trailer, but it is still probably going to be the most quotable part of the entire show.
Which line?
The, like, it's just a drop in the bucket whenever he, like, pulls
Yep.
Yeah.
That is a very small drop of chemicals. Very big. It's beautiful. Like, he plays it with such just conviction. Like, it's great. Like, also, and this isn't like a comment on Walton Goggins in particular, but he's got a very distinctive voice and cadence. And watching him go back and forth between the ghoul with that Western inspired, a little more of a closed mouth, almost an underbitey kind of talking style, to then him as Cooper, where it's much cleaner, much crisper. And you're like, oh, wow. Like he does both roles so well. And you can tell he's just having a field day. And I love it.
I mean, he has a lot of range, like just with those two characters, but then Community, he's a very like clean cut, nerdy guy, but then in Justified, he's a redneck, like drug addled, like,
he's great.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's no surprise to anybody watching.
Right. Yeah.
I do think it's hilarious that the gore gets just ratcheted up to like 11 in this episode, because I thought, you see that little promo clip and you're like, all right, Maximus is descending from on high to stop. And you don't really understand that Maximus actually is just an idiot at this point.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you think, oh, Maximus is coming to the aid. This should end things peaceably. No.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Like, he's just some gung-ho young buck who just stole this armor and doesn't have a clue. And meanwhile, Cooper was a veteran who had used power armor, so he knows all the weaknesses, and he knows that this guy is not all that capable. And it's interesting because later on in the show, you see that Cooper knows his way around power armor. No spoilers for you, but he is a veteran, which he talks about in episode 1, and
oh yeah,
we get more glimpses but he knows his way around power armor. So it's clear that he knows he's toying with Maximus.
Yeah.
And that, I think, with hindsight, makes it even more fun.
Oh, yeah, because at the beginning, I was like, well, there's no way both of these can walk out of this fight. You know, he's in a tank, and this guy really can't be stopped because he's so good at what he does.
Yeah.
And then whenever it's just he flies away on accident, I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
Then you cut to Lucy escaping with the scientist.
Yeah.
And Wilzig, and they put a robotic leg on him.
And that was so
oh my gosh.
gory. Wow.
And I just was like, oh, we're going full video game logic here.
Yep.
And it's beautiful because like that's what I signed up for, and I just didn't expect it because how do you show video game logic in a TV show? Well, it's going to be, especially live action, it's going to be a little messy.
Yeah, you put a juicer on the end of this leg is what you do.
I had no idea what was going to happen. I also loved the June and her roommate, wife, girlfriend, co-owner. I don't know what their actual relationship is, but it gave off that like Golden Girls vibe of like, which as someone with older relatives and you go and spend time with them and one of them's slightly perturbed with the other or angry and they just start shouting at each other. Well, something else is going on entirely. And you're just like, that's amazing. Like, spot on.
And it's very much this is probably not the first time everything has broken loose here. So for them, it's just,
where are the legs? Where are the legs? I thought it was great. I even noticed how the prosthetic leg that they put on him, on the box, it has this sign that it was like the veteran's choice, and it's like, oh no, like you know that the resources war in Fallout, like it's implied it's bad.
Oh yeah,
at least there was technology to help the veterans,
right?
But oh no,
it's not pretty, but
no,
it'll get you there, I guess.
And then so now the idea was like, all right, the Ghoul is the bad guy, we think, right? And also, before we go on, we talked about how we see initially the Enclave is the bad guy. And what is it that the Enclave did that told us they were the bad guy? They hurt dogs.
Oh, yeah.
And the Ghoul, we think, it's implied he killed dog meat, we think.
Yeah, we shot him on purpose.
Or stabbed him.
Stabbed him. Did he stab him? He stabbed him. He was on top of him, and he got hurt really bad.
So now you've killed dog meat. He's absolutely tried to obliterate dog meat's owner.
Yeah.
But then you cut to him, and, he's just been in this big fight, and he pulls out a stim pack to take care of dog meat.
Yeah.
Which, again, as someone who has seen all of the episodes, that has taken on new meaning because that is also referential or foreshadowing, and it's a beautiful moment. What's also going to be more fun as we do these commentaries is that our knowledge gap is going to shrink more and more and more, and I can't wait to look back at it.
That's why I have intentionally not binged them all out, so that
we
way
didn't try to binge it, we just did.
Right. Well, I mean, because they keep coming. Like, I've had to like intentionally be like, nope, I'm going to stop here for a while.
I'm gonna sit on it, enjoy it.
Yep. The dog, is it just loyal to whoever the last impact holder was? Because like he tried to kill him. The dog tried to kill the Ghoul. He stabbed him. He gave him a stim pack, and then he just kind of
was like, okay,
out. Yeah.
I guess we're friends now.
Yeah.
I think that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Because I guess that's how dog meat shows up to us in the game.
I know, in the game, it's just whoever, like, you're like, I'm with you now. We're friends. I never saw you before.
Yeah. I adopted you. No, dog meat adopted me.
Exactly, yeah.
So now, as Lucy and the scientists are trying to, basically the thought that June gave her, the old lady shop owner, June says, here's your chance to get your dad back, is take the scientist as bait, and now you're going to get in.
Yeah, because that is who he's going to see, right? Is the lady.
It's implied, yeah, Moldaver. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're implying that if Lucy can get to Moldaver with Wilzig, the scientist, then she'll get her way in, and now she can get her dad back.
Right.
Now you got the Ghoul on your trail, and the Brotherhood is tasked with getting the scientist.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of people going after this MacGuffin, like we say. But again, it also serves a purpose, as you will see with time.
Oh, yeah.
What did you think about the ending where he just decides that he's given up on life and it's time to do some less than fun, less than clean surgery?
I was like, that's not where this is going. No.
Yeah.
And then when she pulls out the Ripper, I was like, oh boy, this is about to get crazy.
I mean, in the game, the Ripper has a pretty intimidating sound effect. But at the same time, I guess everybody plays a little differently. For me, I think I only did one melee build, and I used the Power Fist, which is just, a giant hydraulic. And then you run as fast as you can. And then I found the Spray and Pray, which has explosive bullets. And it's like, that's way more fun to shoot people and it explodes. Yeah. So I don't think I ever had a character build that used a Ripper.
No.
So when Lucy pulls it out, and you can hear how chunky the teeth are. And you're like, oh, this isn't going to just be a clean surgical cut. This is going to be a gory mess.
And I'm assuming it is it's not him that needs to make it wherever it's going. It's what he put in his neck.
It's what he put in his neck. Correct. Gotcha. Correct. So this is where, you've set all three stories in motion in the first episode. Now you're having them all cross paths in the second episode. That's why I said in our non-spoiler section, they both had that same task. I give them the same grade because the first one's laying the foundation for the whole world. And this one is connecting all of the interweaving stories. For me, I give it an 8.
Yeah.
I think it's phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
But it just gets better, man. It just gets better.
I forgot how long these episodes are. So, right before the shootout, I was like, well, it's about to end. And then that happened. And I was like, well, it's about to end. And then he gets his foot put back on. And I was like, oh, it's just going to keep on going.
And it just kept going. Yeah. It's fun because it's the kind of ride that you don't want it to end.
Yeah, I wasn't like, oh, there's more. I was like, oh, there's more. I just assumed time-wise we were at the end. No, it just keeps going. All right.
Yep.
I'm on board.
Yep. And so it is fun because it's like, all right, what's going to happen? Who's going to come out on top? Or should I say, who's going to come out ahead?
Oh.
Head. See, the puns just, they keep coming and they don't stop coming. So, yeah, I think for me, very satisfying episode.
Oh, yeah.
Laid into the tone of Fallout.
Oh, very much so. It gets the vibe right the whole time.
Yep.
The cave scene, it was like a random encounter. They got the random encounter part down. It's not it turns out to be a huge story beat, but it's just, that's how you just walk on to things in Fallout. And you're like, oh, there's things attacking things.
And the scene with the Ghoul in the shootout in Philly, you can't really use VATS from the game, the automated targeting system. You have to somehow, how do you show slowing time? How do you show experience? How do you do that? And they did it just masterfully.
It slowed down. It was not a fast shootout. And it felt very VATSy.
Which there is a scene in Westworld it's a trope that's used throughout the show. Not to spoil a show that's been out for, almost a decade at this point.
Yeah.
In case you weren't aware, Westworld is a bunch of androids. And so a lot of these scenes, it's a theme park. These scenes are going to take place multiple times with slight variations based on how people interact with them. And so there is a heist scene that's used as a character encounter that happens all the time. And as a new guest comes into Westworld for the first time, you can try to stop the banditos from stealing the safe at the Mariposa. I watched the shootout in Philly and I went, oh, that's Jonathan Nolan doing Westworld right there. In the best of ways. Like I give it an 8. The only hard part is that pacing for taking 3 disconnected storylines and weaving them to interconnect. That's hard for anything.
Oh, yeah. But I like it that it wasn't, they all get together and they're like, oh, we're all buddies now. Let's all go on adventures together. No, they're not all on the same side still.
No. I can't wait for you to continue to uncover the mysteries and see how everything connects.
Me too. And nothing has been spoiled for me, even like going through news or articles and things. Like nothing has happened to me. So this is all still
perfect
reveals.
So here's the thing. Everyone dies and they actually are starting with a whole new cast for season 2. Everyone's dead. Everybody.
Fantastic. That's what I was hoping for.
No, that doesn't happen. And if you actually believed that, you'd be crazy.
Right.
But not as crazy as the kind of hijinks that we normally get up to here on the Big Red Button. Which, if you've enjoyed what you've heard here tonight and you need more Fallout content, because let's be honest, we all need more Fallout content, please come check us out next week as we continue our story into the wastelands of post-apocalyptic Michigan in our actual play of a tabletop role-playing game that we've turned into an audio drama. And I would be sorely remiss if I didn't point out the fact that we are a member of the Grapefruit Network. We have 2 other sister shows. So if you want to hear about Harry Potter, or if you want to hear bar games and bar chat, we have 2 other shows, Potter Plus and A Doctor and a Lawyer Walk Into a Bar. You can check all of us out at thegrapefruitnetwork.com, or you can check us out specifically at bigredbutton.show. So we'd love for you to come back next time. If you're just coming for the Fallout show, we've got, I'd say, we're basically on par with Jonathan Nolan without, the volume. We don't use the volume here. We are like,
that's the only difference.
That might actually put us ahead, right? Like, that makes us like Stanley Kubrick to Jonathan and Christopher Nolan, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Duh. No, we're not. Listen, if Jonathan Nolan hears this, please know that's fully satirical. We're not worthy.
We're just kidding. We love you.
But honestly, we get up to that same kind of hijinks, and we'd love for you to come back next time and hear what we get up to.
Yeah. So from all of us here at the Grapefruit Network and the Big Red Button, I am Dallas.
And I am Alex. We will see you all next week.
See ya.